A lot of people need to realize why they started it, remember their why, and make sure they continue to find joy. Don't let this turn into something that becomes a job and becomes, a chore in training. Keep that joy involved, related to it. So it's always fun to train, fun to compete, fun to just experience the running community.
Welcome to the Safe Space Running Podcast. We're here to encourage, empower, and enable. My next guest, this person is near and dear to my heart. I always enjoy seeing him. I will never forget, even when I saw him at the line at the race, he said I zoomed in and out, but I made sure I focused right on him. He deserves all the praise. Dr. Kelvin Brown. Kelvin, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, Chris. I just got back from Boston, and this is the first stop, on your podcast. So I've been looking forward to this ever since you reached out to me. And like you said, when we first met, it was that automatic connection. I was like, who's this guy dressed up as Superman? and then, I didn't even know it. We met your wife separately, and we didn't even know you all were, a couple and so forth. And she's absolutely great. So both of you are just amazing people. And so when you reached out and said, hey, join me on the podcast, it was a no-brainer. So been doing well. Just got back from the Boston Marathon, getting recovered, just finished working out, did some cross training on the bike and started doing some weights and stuff since I got back. So doing great.
That's good to hear. No, it was the same thing. Like it's a one thing to see Black excellence in that sense, especially knowing, because I didn't know when we first met that you and Jenny were a couple as well. And then once we started digging in, so like, oh my God, they're so dope too. So trust me, the feeling is mutual for you guys as well. My first question to you would be, what's next on your plan? You just said you did Boston. What do you have lined up for the next couple of months or so in terms of your racing and fitness schedule?
Yeah, long story short, we went up to Boston. I had a bib through Shocks, the headphones, and I made a decision the morning of Boston not to run it and cheer instead. It was a tough decision. As you know, Boston is the premier marathon in the world, and to go for my second unicorn and medal there, that was a hard decision not to do it. But I'm not 100%, and I made that decision because I haven't been 100% for about a year and a half, 2 years. And I'm ready to get back to being my own personal Superman, running sort of at your caliber. And so I want to come back strong. So I'm going to run a series of short races to get my endurance up. I didn't want to go back and, put the body and the knees and so forth and subject it to 26.2 miles. And so what I'm going to do is go back to the 5Ks and 10Ks and so forth in preparation for 4th of July Peachtree Road Race here in Atlanta. And that'll be a good race that I want to, do well at and sort of get my fitness back and my performance back, become my old self that I was getting at during my early run of the 6-star majors. When I started doing the 6 stars, I started out with Berlin and had a great time. And then Chicago was going to be a good time before I hurt myself at the halfway mark. That's when it first started bothering me, my knee, that is. And then after that, I just haven't been the same for New York and Boston and London and Sydney, where I saw you. So anyway, I want to get back. And if I have a pretty good race come 4th of July, no other setbacks, then I'll do something in the fall. And my next marathon that I know for sure will be with January in California at the CIM, where I look to do well. But I've never had a block of good preparation for any marathon, any of my 11 marathons. Never have had a good block. The most I've trained consistently and consecutively was maybe 6 weeks before a marathon. Never 12, never 16. So now I have some months and there's really no pressure. I really want to come back strong. I want my body to be strong, mentally strong, my confidence back up, and my neuromuscular coordination back up. So a lot of short races, get my confidence back, especially on my legs. So I'm not fearful that I'm going to injure myself, so I can go strong as I like. and then build up from there and do some long runs again.
Awesome. Well, that's good. You kind of jumped into one of my questions, which is perfect that you did that. I think that I'm always a fan of taking your time before I jump into that portion. I'm in a season right now. I've got a couple races lined up, and we have one this weekend actually, our big half marathon coming
Mm,
up back in Columbus, Ohio. That's always our favorite one. Everyone comes to me, "Hey, you racing?" I'm like, no, not really. I mean,
mm,
I'm just
yeah,
out there to have a good time, and that feels like the season for me, just building and just continue to be a stronger runner. So I can
good for
completely
you.
understand that perspective. Yeah. And to kind of touch back onto that, but the point of having to drop out of those couple races, I had a question to that. Um, I think that before I go to the question, I want to make sure that we honor and recognize you. You have been, you already hit into, you're a six star recipient, a 6 star finisher. I also like to bring out, we don't get paid for this often. If any of us do, we all have professional jobs, and you are a doctor, you're a physician, surgeon, health expert with 23 years practicing medicine. You're a founder of Synco Systems. You're a founder of Running for Precision. You do all these things, and yet you still are out here. You've got 11 marathons under your belt. Like, I don't understand how you have all this time. I thought I was busy, but you're doing all of it and then some. But I say all that to say that you highlighted, you dropped out of Boston, which it's unfortunate, but there's a reason why to that. And I wanted to ask you, as one of my questions for you, the importance of pivoting. A lot of times I hear the term ER or PR or ER. I hate that term, personally speaking. But
Right.
I can't. I'm the last one to be falling out on the line. But you had to make a tough decision, being in the Boston atmosphere, having everyone there, you have your bib, everything, and you made a decision that morning to not race it based on your health injuries or your current injuries and trying to build back up. My question to you is, why is the ability to pivot to making those decisions important for our long-term running health?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, especially in this day and time when social media applies so much pressure on people to run when they're not ready, to run more than they should, and so forth. So I think it's going to be a wave of people, learning from their injuries and so forth. And I think the message that I'm sending out is going to be duplicated by others and so forth. You have to listen to your body, and that was one of the things that I've had to reflect upon and learn from experience and wisdom. I too was naive to a degree, and I'm always learning. We should always learn, and we should always grow from our experiences and learn from our mistakes and so forth. But when I started this journey, and I thought I was moved, to be honest with you, and I still believe I was moved to pursue the 6 star journey and so forth because I never had that individual desire. But we can talk about that a little bit later or some other time. But I was moved to do it, and I said yes to that calling. And so that was the only reason I did all the consecutive races and so forth, and probably bit off too much, or at least I didn't have the experience to do all those consecutive marathons back to back without putting emphasis on the recovery and all of that, right? So anyway, I learned from it. And so now I know that it's important to pivot. It's important to listen to your body. It's important, like you said, potentially subject to your own pride or peer pressure these days. You see it and you get FOMO, right? You say, oh my gosh, I want to run that race. And you hear all your friends and you see the influencers and you see all these people coming across your feed and say, I want to do that. Just like when I heard you said, I'm about to run a half marathon, coming up this weekend, my first thought was like, I want to fly up there and do the half marathon with you. I know, like, what's the name of that marathon? I want to sign up for it. But anyway, we have to learn how to pivot, and that goes for everything in life. Running is just a metaphor for life, and so that question can be applied to anything this day and age. It can be applied to your career. With things changing with AI, you have to pivot and so forth. It goes with relationships sometimes where you have to pivot. You thought you had these short and long term plans that just doesn't pan out. So what are you going to do with regard to that relationship? And this here is a running relationship. When do you stay committed? When do you back off? When you sort of get something else to distract you from it, so that you can come back and don't become obsessed with it. And that's a big message when it comes to running. A lot of people need to realize why they started it, remember their why,
Mm.
and make sure they continue to find joy. Don't let this turn into something that becomes a job and becomes, a chore in training. Keep that joy involved, related to it. So it's always fun to train, fun to compete, fun to just experience the running community and, meet people like you all. So when you do go to a place like Boston Marathon and you really want to run, not running is not the end of the world, because there's so much more. And that's what I found. I mean, it was such a joy to celebrate other people, to see that same inspiration that brought me to running in the first place, because that was one of the
Mm.
places that got me really, really started. That, and seeing, Kipchoge in person in Berlin, and then seeing January get her sixth star, and she inspires me still to this day. But right there at Boston, I saw those people coming because I was right at the finish line. And if you've
Oh,
ever
wow.
been at a major at a finish line and seeing not only the fast people like yourself, the sub 3 hour people, but seeing the people come in 4, 5, and 6 and crawling and so forth, and seeing people all ages, and all sort of disabilities and motivations and causes and the stuff like that. That's the inspiration. So anyway, I was able to pivot because I knew I could still enjoy the city, the community. And that's one of the reasons I knew I was going to go up there regardless of running or not, because that was like a wish foundation type of experience. If I found myself not being able to do anything, and just laid up in bed and not being able to move, I would always want to wish that kind of
Mm.
experience. And so that was a wish come true. And it was easy to pivot with that mindset, that attitude, and always having the attitude of gratitude. And so I was just grateful to be there, to be able to make that decision electively.
That's I couldn't say it any better. I think that those are not easy decisions to make. I think, especially when you said it best, we have a relationship with running. We have a relationship with the sport. Oftentimes, we're spending months, weeks, months, years, trying to get better, or, progressing ourselves in whatever distance. And getting to that point of the race to where you have to make that kind of call is not an easy decision. But I love that you said the factor of not becoming obsessed. I think, and finding that joy and gratitude. Speaking personally, running has blessed me so much with meeting people like yourselves and traveling halfway across the world, literally, to Sydney and things like that, and being able to have satisfaction in the journey versus trying to find that one instance of gratitude, or that one, letting the race validate the journey is kind of where I oftentimes have to check myself. In this, maybe speaking in my personal perspective, I'll never want the race to be whether I had a successful season or not. And I think having that willingness to pivot because of the entire story rather than just that one portion of the story is so important for us as runners and walkers in this space to kind of come to terms with, because race day is race day. It could be completely different. It could be storming. It could be 90 degrees out. You could wake up and, well, now that I'm getting ready to hit 40, I wake up and my back hurt for some odd reason, just randomly, and just, oh, what's
Right,
that tweak there? But
right,
I,
right,
I
right.
I love that perspective of having that gratitude, even when the sake of pivoting to really to help celebrate in others' success, and that
Yeah,
that that takes a lot. That takes
yeah,
that's a big deal.
yeah. Have you had to pivot with running in a similar situation
Oh,
at this point?
I have to. Yeah, yeah. There's been a couple times, like when I first did Chicago 2024. I was trading for sub 3, and then halfway through, I was overzealous, so to speak. I was putting too much mileage on, and I was increasing my intensity. And most people know when you increase your volume, you usually lower your intensity, and vice versa. It's a balancing act. Well, I decided to be selfish and raise both. And my whole left foot swelled up, and I
Wow.
couldn't walk or run. It was after a 20 miler, and I'm freaking out. And I was talking to my coach, and we had to adjust and, like, we're not going to do any more 20s. I didn't do another 20. I did, like, I think the most I did up to that point was another 14. He was like, "You have the fitness, but you've got to adjust. You got to let yourself heal." and then you have to shift your goal to another one. And at first I was disappointed, but it was like in that pivot, I had to sit back and really think, as you said, why are we running in the first place? Why are we taking this journey? And to me, it was like I got to run every Sunday with my brothers. I got to go and run at all these different run clubs and see everyone's different journey and train really hard and get better at running. And yeah, I may be injured at the time, but I can still move. I wouldn't have realized that being so gung ho trying to break that time limit. And then once Chicago hit, I was like, I'm not racing it at all. I'm gonna go out here and have a good time. And it really helped establish my healthy relationship with the distance, with marathoning. I went out there, I didn't hit a wall, which is shocking, but at the same time, it was like that pivot of switching from trying to race it super fast to just go out there and enjoy the experience. That pivot was the best decision I could have made in this journey, for sure.
Yeah, that's good to hear. You brought up a good point, and I sort of want to repeat this because for the first time, I asked myself these questions before a race. I had to give it some thought, and so I want to get it out there so maybe someone who listens, they can ask themselves the same question. But it was 2 or 3 days before the Boston Marathon, and I was like, why do I run? And so I listed 3 things I said for myself. And when people ask themselves the question, it may be one answer, it may be 3, maybe 5, 10, or whatever. But I said, why do I run? I said, 1, to get healthier, 2, to have fun, and 3, to inspire others, right? And so, am I going to achieve these 3 things if I run Boston? And so, 1, I wasn't going to get healthier. I was just only going to hurt myself more. Okay. Number 2, if I have to struggle, then I'm not having fun. I mean, it's great. I'm proving something, whatever. That's great, and so forth. And 3, if I was on the sidelines watching me struggle running, am I providing inspiration, or somebody's going to look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, I kind of feel sorry for that guy. He's struggling." And so that gave me the answer that I needed for myself. If I'm not running and I'm being that source of inspiration that I witnessed when I was on the sideline, whatever it is, then why am I doing it? Especially if I'm not having fun and if I can potentially hurt myself. So anyway, those are the 3 questions I had to ask myself. And so when people run, they need to say, am I achieving these things in this 5K, 10K, half marathon, or what have you? And the same thing goes for anything in life. Why are you doing it? And if it's not serving a purpose, your purpose, then don't do it.
I like that. I think I always tell my friends, race day glove is a different glove than today. Because I could be gung ho coming up to, all the way up. I'm going to use Saturday as a good example. I was talking to a couple people, you're going to race Saturday? I'm like, nah, I'm going to just go out there. Saturday might be a different story. I may have the bug, who knows? But it might be the vice versa. But again, being willing to have that pivot and having that mindset of asking those very same questions. I can't think of how many I did even in Sydney. And Sydney was much more successful in terms of like pacing. But I asked myself the same thing: is like I could go out here and really try to break do the 3 like I wanted here. That's what I trained for, or I can spend that time to be happy, to inspire others, and to just enjoy being in a whole different country. And I chose the latter. I chose it that morning. I even told my coach, I was like, I'm not going to race it. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, yep. He's like, go for it. And you get to take in so much more that way, in my personal opinion. I'm always about seeing people and being present. But in terms of just health and things like that too, I walked out. Again, I had some lingering issues from the injury previously from 2024. But throughout that year, I trained well and was healthy. And each time I've done the marathon now, I've gotten stronger and been smarter. And I think being able to pivot with, of course, health in mind and joy in mind, that's why I signed up for another one.
No,
I don't know why I signed up for another one.
But yeah, and I totally believe you. I mean, you have to make those decisions because I love watching you because again, who puts on puts on a Superman outfit, cape and all, if they're not going out to make a statement saying, I'm having fun, I'm going to inspire you. My performance is going to be Superman like, right? And I mean, I want you to look. I mean, if you're a little kid on the sideline watching this guy of color run fast as I don't know what in a Superman cape, I mean, you're making so many statements, and I think you know this, but it's always good to hear it from others. You're making a statement of inclusivity, of coming in and your performance is top notch. It's not like you're putting on a show. I mean, you are putting the work and the results behind all the costumes and all this other stuff. And so it's without a doubt, it's no questions asked. You're putting your money where your mouth is and so forth. And so you make a whole bunch of statements. You make a lot of people proud. And so I commend you for that. And you find a lot of joy in it. And that's obvious.
Thank you for that. I'm trying. I hate taking compliments, but at the same time, my mother was like, "Take them in," and that's display my. But because it does. I don't get to. I don't talk about it too much, but like the costume is never about a show thing. You hit it right on you hit the nail on the head. It's just like it's really to help us celebrate and have that joy when we're out there. Like we spend so much time working hard. The last day I'm going to be upset at is race day. The last day I'm going to be stressed at is race day. And we're going to have a good time. And that's for me is my reminder. And for others, it's just like you can perform well and you can still have a good time in doing so. And
Yeah.
that's where the spirit is at. But enough about me. I've got one more. I've got another question for you
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I also saw recently that one of your posts that you made on Instagram, and again, if you haven't followed, I'll make sure to put his Instagram handle as part of the video. But you marked that this was 13 years since your heart attack, after suffering a heart attack, and I think the one thing before I even go to that, I always respect your transparency in your journey. Again, you posted about having to pivot and not running Boston because of injury. People need to see that. When you talk about, your journey from your heart attack, people need to see that because it's relatable and it humanizes the aspect of running. It humanizes that we all deal with different things and different struggles. And I say that to say that instead of the heart attack becoming a hindrance, it became the foundation of the life that you live now. So my next question to you would be, why was it important to recover both from the heart attack itself, but recover your lifestyle to becoming the successful runner that you are now?
Say that one more time. I heard the
No,
first
that's
part.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. About the
yeah,
heart
yeah.
attack
So
and then about the runner. How do you associate
yeah,
those two?
yeah. So what I was getting to was that how did you why was it important for you to take you having a heart attack to because a lot of people, I guess giving it more context would help as well. I know certain health scares and injuries sometimes can people have to make a decision when that stuff kind of happens. Either you kind of settle in and just deal with it, or you make changes for the better. And I feel like through your journey, you've made changes for the better. And again, that leads into part of me was inferring that it led into your running journey as well and your fitness journey in that case. So
I
I
understand.
guess that transition of taking that occurrence, something as scary as a heart attack, and not just letting it hinder you, but it strengthened you to live better and pursue better things. Why would that be important for you, or why was that decision to live like that afterwards important for you?
No, that's a good point. And I want to answer that two ways, and let me put it out there
Sure.
so I won't forget it. One is running to me has given me a second life to so many situations. That's number one.
Mm.
And then number two is just responding to adversity and tough things and so forth. And so the first one, with regard to running, giving me a second life, it's given me a second life to the heart attack. It's given me a second life to obesity. It's given me a second life to years of sacrifice where I've focused on helping others and not myself, not
Mm.
going different places in the world like I'm doing now. Running has opened that door for those opportunities. It has given me a second life to a healthier mental health, being maybe depressed and anxious and so forth, almost to a debilitating a point, to opening up opportunities to be healthier, to lose weight, to have energy, to have more confidence, to explore the world. So that's what running did for me rather than being stuck in that old world of being unhealthy, staying over obese, not traveling anywhere as you get older, and then potentially finding yourself living with regret. So that's
Mm.
one answer to you. Another answer was I alluded to the fact, and I told you this off air, that I just left Boston and I was interviewed by another entity. And they were asking me and saying, oh, tell me about, they was doing something about a tough, outcome. And they asked me the question in a way that they thought that was the toughest thing in my life. And it
Mm.
may have been the heart attack, it may have been something else, but I answered to them saying that that's just one thing. And if you looked at my life from the outside, you would think that it's the hardest thing that I've experienced and I've had to overcome. And I've responded likewise in a way where I have strengthened myself and I've gotten better. And so the heart attack, yes, it happened 13 years ago. Have I had hard times since then? Yes. And did I have hard times before that? Absolutely. You're talking to somebody who lost their mother to suicide at the age of 8. And so when you start talking about experiencing difficult things in life and having to wake up one day, have someone not in your life after they've been in your life and so forth, and what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? And then go on to be successful in school and medical school and all this other stuff. It's not the first time. So I've learned, and I've continued to have faith, and I've continued to put effort in things, and not sort of dwell in that agony. And I feel pain and stuff from time to time too, right? But I have to say I'm going to respond this way. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to get better, and I use that to fuel me. And so I needed, just case in point, I needed Boston as much as anything else. I didn't need to run it, but I needed that to also feed me. I needed to get back out there. It's like if you have problems swimming and almost drown, hell, get back to the ocean and look at it and then start putting a toe in the water, put a foot in the water, put a leg in the water.
Mm.
But you introduce yourself to that and then you conquer that as well. And so with running, that was just one way. It took me a little while and I continue to do it, and had to set back with the injury. But again, it gives me energy. I know I can do it. I've done it before. And so I learn from that experience. It gives me confidence. It gives me faith. And then I move forward.
That's that's. I need to put that. I hope you. I saw you had two books. You need to write another book in terms of running. I know you have two books already, but you need to go ahead. If you ain't got one about running in your journey, you need to go ahead and make a book. You need to go ahead and sign, seal, deliver, because I really love that you touched on multiple aspects that we go through in life, and again, I think again when I was writing down questions for you, pivot just kept coming to mind for you, and it explains why. Because I think you hinted at it, not even hinted at it, you talked about you having to make decisions all throughout your life and having multiple things that may have been difficult, but you've always had, from our discussion here, you've had the uncanny ability to find the right decisions to make as part of that, and that's also a merit to your character. Also having faith in those decisions and having faith put behind that plays a huge role, because there are experiences that I'm sure that we don't know that you've been through, but you've still made. I'm huge on people's choice. I think oftentimes we undermine the ability to choose, because sometimes choosing naturally good things is easy. Sometimes people doing bad things, choice is easy, but there's always a power in that choice.
Mm.
And from the things you've dealt with, because um, my words are word. Let me rephrase that. But you choosing and becoming, a doctor and working towards that education, you going for your 7 majors, you going through, your weight loss and reinventing yourself and finding yourself and, empowering yourself, leads to so many others looking at your journey and looking at your story and taking that as that inspiration for that they can also lean to make better choices as well. So, and even when I was talking to my wife before, I told her I was talking with you later or earlier, and the first thing she said was, "He is so inspiring."
Mm.
And this is the part where I go into, again, I always want to make sure we give our flowers out to people. And I couldn't agree with her more. You are truly inspiring in just us talking. And like I said, I was so happy when I saw you down at the race. It just warmed my heart. And learning a little bit more about who you are and learning more about, your choices and your heart to inspire others, you have a transparency to you in both your, who you are as a person and your social media presence. It never feels like you're trying to I saw a post earlier today talking about people, influencers and people who are popular. Sometimes influencers are trying to get people to get their attention, where people who are popular share their feelings and we naturally follow them because of their leadership abilities. And I feel like you have that in your story, in your journey, and how you tell that to others. So I have to thank you for being a person in this space to not only be a full blown doctor. That still blows my mind. Not to say that you get, but the fact that you're out here doing marathons as a full blown doctor is crazy to me. But it shows that, there's so much dedication in running that you have in that space into your career, but yet you still choose to share your story. You still choose to inspire, and you still choose to desire to have that inspiration as part of your character. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for what you
Thank you.
do in this space and the inspiration that you have placed into the spectrum. Like I said, there's people all over in Columbus that know who you are and they're inspired by you, but I'm personally inspired by you, and I'm truly honored to be sitting here talking with you for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, that just gives me more energy to do what I do. And I've always wanted to be, and I use a broader term, even greater than say a doctor, but a minister of health to a degree.
Yeah.
And I just want to be used. I want to be a vessel. And I don't I don't seek these things. I definitely didn't become a doctor and so forth because social media wasn't around when I started this, and so
Yeah, yeah.
you have to pivot and you have to embrace it, right? And say, okay, at first it was one on one, and then it was 1 to 1,000 or 30,000. Now maybe with social media is 1 to however many your audience is, and so whatever it is, just use me whatever, however you want to, whatever you want to get out of this race or whatever. I just want to be used, and hopefully it's a positive change for somebody, even if it's just one person. So thank you for those words. At least I'm impacting one person.
Oh, you definitely are impacting more than that. I
Yeah.
think it's there's a my coach says it, and I also my dad has also said it too. It's the servant's heart. You can always find those people who truly live by that narrative of having that servant's heart, not to serve others from the genuine nature of helping others, not to serve because I want the accolades. No, but you always have had that heart to celebrate and serve others. Like I said, when you
Yeah.
sat at that line and celebrated when I crossed, and I was like, oh my God, but that means a lot. You could have chose to turn around and go to your car and just hang out there, but you waited at that line and celebrated all of us as we crossed through. And that just speaks to who you are as a person.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
of course. And my last question to you would be: this is, if anyone knows, what everyone knows who listens to the cast knows what's coming, but everyone has a different answer, which is what's so beautiful about it. So, the question to you is: someone comes up to you, brand new runner or walker, and they have never entered into this space. What is one thing that you would suggest to them as they start this journey?
Again, realize why you're doing it, and make sure whatever that reason is for themselves. Make that answer a selfish answer, not for anybody else, and because that answer is going to be with them. That's going to live with them day night when they don't want to run, when they don't want to do whatever. Is why do you want to run? Why do you want to walk? It has to be personal. And then once you have that commitment, then comes the consistency. Then you'll start seeing improvement and so forth. Try not to compare yourself with others. Just work on your journey. That journey may be individual or within a group, run group, whatever, races. But just make it intimate, make it personal, and then stick with it and give it time. Anything takes time. And so it may start out, walking may start out 10 minutes, then it goes to 15 or 20 minutes, then it goes from 1 day to 3 days, 3 days to 4 days. But just stick with it and have fun. Don't make it a chore. That would be the first thing to do because that's the foundation. Once you do that and you have the joy, then you'll start seeking more knowledge, more experience, everything else. You'll have a good foundation to put all of that on.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of a quote my friend texted me is what is your measure of success. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. It's got to be selfish, and I respect that, and I think that's really important for us to remember. Well, I can't thank you enough. You mentioned Peachtree, the 10K, right? That's coming
Yeah,
up. Was that?
yeah.
Is that
It's always July
there's a
4th. Yeah.
there's a chance that we may be down there. That's the second person that's mentioned it now. So hopefully, if we do, we'll make sure we connect and be able to run that race. That would be exciting. So I'll have to check with Rose when she gets here. But again, truly a pleasure to always chat with you, and I'm sure we will see each other very soon.
Thank you so much, and I wish you so much success. Keep inspiring the world, keep flying in the Cape and so forth. But you're full of inspiration, so keep doing what you're doing. Okay.
Thank you so much.